We've seen this New York Rangers team have some major struggles as a team so far this season. Although the team got off to a very good start, things turned around for the worst very, very fast there. This team finally ended their fairly big losing streak with a win, a 4-3 win, with a late goal there against the Montreal Canadiens Saturday afternoon to end that losing streak, which that was great to see, but this Rangers team just has not been playing great hockey at all. They've been playing in some tight games and losing most of them against some not great opposition there. Obviously, we've been playing against some not great teams, not true kind of top-tier playoff teams. We've been losing to them. Montreal is obviously not a great team there. We just squeak out the 4-3 win, and, this team just has not been playing great hockey so far this season. It has not just been one area, of this team's game here, whether it's, the forwards and their goal scoring or, the kind of defensemen and their defensive play or the goaltending at moments. It's been a mix of kind of all three of those, the forwards, defense, and goaltending at moments. And, some players have played great. Some players have really struggled so far this season as well. So in today's video, I thought we'd kind of really take a look at something interesting here and kind of talk about which person is more to blame for this New York Rangers kind of failure so far this season. Is it the head coach, Peter Laviolette, or is it the general manager, Chris Drury? That's the question I will answer for you all in today's video. And before we start, definitely comment down below your thoughts on this kind of situation here. Who do you think is more to blame for this kind of failure so far from the New York Rangers? Is it Peter Laviolette, the head coach, or Chris Drury? I think it's a very interesting conversation, and I'm going to dive pretty deep into that in today's video. But definitely comment down below your thoughts. Who is more to blame? Because I think there are a lot of, points to either side there, being Laviolette or Drury for being more to blame there. You could say it's either person, so I'm going to try and break that all down in today's video, but definitely let me know your thoughts as always, and yeah, let's get into it here. So first off, obviously, the Rangers, like I said, had their good start to the season. Things turned around pretty quickly for the worst, and this team has been playing some terrible hockey as of late now for a little while, and these last few games, that's the big problem, though, like I said as well, is the fact that we're, losing against these not good teams for the most part there. I mean, some of them have been pretty good, obviously, but some of them have been, non-playoff teams. I mean, we just squeaked out barely that win against Montreal. They're obviously not a great team there. And, another thing is we've seen a lot of the same issues and problems and mistakes, that we've seen for years and years now with this New York Rangers team. So maybe that kind of leads towards the side of maybe it not being just on kind of Peter Laviolette here. And obviously, it's not just on either Laviolette or Chris Drury. I mean, obviously, there are a lot of players, management, coaches, all that kind of stuff there you could obviously blame. But I think, some of these guys definitely share the blame. But if I had to pick someone, I would definitely lean more towards, in my opinion, Chris Drury for being a little more to blame for this kind of failure so far this season from this New York Rangers team. We saw what Peter Laviolette did with this team last season, taking it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, where we did lose in Game 6 there in his first season with this team. After just getting hired, his first season there takes us all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. We lost in Game 6 there to the eventual Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers there, which, they're obviously, or especially were a great team there. They were built the right way. And that's kind of where I get back to the point of maybe it is more on Chris Drury there. I think we've seen this team for a while now have the exact same mistakes and problems and issues, for a long time now. It's the puck moving on the defensive side of things there. Our breakouts have been terrible for years and years now. It feels like our defensemen are fairly soft. I mean, Andre Miller, I like the guy. I think he can be a pretty good player there, but he is way too soft, especially for being a guy who is that big, 6'5", well over 200 pounds there. He's got to be more physical. He's got to be tougher out there on the ice, and he just isn't that kind of player. So we definitely have seen this defensive core, not be great on breakouts, not being great at moving the puck, and also being fairly soft at moments. And, I don't necessarily think it's, completely just terrible defensive play. I think, the lack of physicality on the back end definitely plays into the kind of not great defensive play at moments as well. It's losing those puck battles in the corners because, Andre Miller isn't as tough of a player as the other guy is going up against there. So the other guy gets the puck there in the corner. They come out with the puck. They have possession in their zone, and then obviously they can go on and try and create some scoring chances. So I'm not just trying to single out Andre Miller here either. There are other players who have been kind of soft at moments, especially defensively on the defense side of things there. But I think in general, this D-core, it's definitely not tough enough. We don't have enough kind of big, tough, physical, puck-moving defensemen that you definitely need to have to win a Stanley Cup. You take a look at that Panthers roster, Some of their defensemen are massive, they're tough, they're gritty, they're physical, and are just really tough to play against, whereas the Rangers D-core doesn't seem to be the same way. They don't seem to be one of those defense cores that, are overly physical and really, really tough to play against, so that is definitely an issue for this team. I think the lack of, physicality and kind of players added in the back end, especially on the back end there, from Chris Drury. I mean, Peter Laviolette can only coach the players that he has as well. I mean, he can only do so much with the guys he has. We've seen this team with the same core players. Obviously, we've heard the rumors of, Chris Drury wanting to possibly, make a big splash trade here and get rid of some guys here from the main core. But, I think you can only blame Peter Laviolette for so much, right? Because at the end of the day there, he can't pick the players he gets, obviously, right? I mean, maybe he has some say in the offseason, stuff like that, when they're looking at free agents and a possible trade and stuff like that here and there, for sure. I mean, maybe he does have a little input in there. But for the most part there, at the end of the day, it's up to Chris Drury to make that final decision there, pull the trigger on that trade, sign that guy to that contract in free agency, pick that guy up off waivers, So I think in general, this is a little more on Chris Drury, I would say. Now, is Peter Laviolette completely out of the blame there? No, but I do think Peter Laviolette is a really good head coach. He is one of the better head coaches, I think, in my opinion, in the entire NHL. I think he is a good coach. I like what he's done so far, and I like the assistants he's also brought in here. The Rangers, for a while, were a pretty terrible face-off team. You bring in Michael Pekka in his first season, last season, with the Rangers being an assistant coach under Peter Laviolette. He gets hired with Laviolette there for his new staff, and instantly, this team is one of the better face-off teams in the entire NHL, and we are once again one of the better face-off teams in the NHL. So that's a big part there from Michael Pekka, who obviously was picked up to be one of his assistants by Peter Laviolette. So that's a big bonus there. I think Peter Laviolette did a good job picking his assistants there. Dan Muse as well seems like a pretty solid guy there. Obviously has a connection to the U.S. National Development Program, so we get a little insight on some kind of draft prospects, stuff like that as well. So I do think Peter Laviolette did a really great job of picking his assistants, and I think for the players he's had, I think he has done a pretty solid job here. I think this Rangers roster, it's not terrible. It's not one of the bottom 5 or 10 even in the NHL, but the way it's built, it's to really rely on our goaltender Igor Shesterkin. This team is not a top to bottom kind of really perfectly built team there, where you've got that good mix of physicality, offense, defense, toughness, puck moving ability, all that kind of stuff that you need to win a cup. We don't have a great mix of that. We have some talented players, and we have a few guys with some great physicality and toughness, but we don't have enough of that. We don't have the right mix of players on this team right now, and I think that in large part is kind of to blame on Chris Drury. He has not gone out there and made those big moves, and some of the big moves he has made are those annoying ones, in my opinion. Now, some of you may very much disagree, but what I hate to see constantly is what we did for a while, and we've obviously did this past, trade deadline as well, is just constantly making these kind of rental moves there, trading away high-tier, value assets, whether it's, picks or prospects or both, and we're giving up these assets and prospects and stuff like that, and picks for rental players who just have really no chance of being re-signed. Now, there are obviously, players who are probably going to trade for at this deadline who maybe we can re-sign because of the cap going up a ton there. Maybe we get off Trouba's contract. I mean, we are going to have quite a bit of cap space, it seems like, opening up, which is quite nice. So maybe we can bring back some of these rental guys we possibly trade for, which we probably will, because Chris Drury loves to do that. And I get, at the deadline, you don't see a ton of players traded away with a ton of term, but that's kind of why you need to make these kind of big moves in the offseason, which, I'm not saying I can do a better job than Chris Drury or anything like that, but if I was the general manager, I would try and make my big moves happen in the offseason instead of consistently, trading for, an Andrew Kopp or a Patrick Kane or a Tarasenko right around the deadline there, where you have a lot less time to obviously, kind of get things together there, get guys situated, get the chemistry going, get the lines going and stuff like that, and get players acclimated, whereas you do it in the offseason. Maybe you are getting that player with 2 years of term, and I get it can be more expensive and stuff like that, but I just think in general, this Rangers team just doesn't really go at it the right way sometimes, and maybe I'm wrong and you disagree. Definitely let me know in the comment section down below, but personally, I don't love seeing these kind of high-end assets traded away for rental players when we haven't seen this team be able to get over the hump yet. Obviously, it's really tough to really go that far and actually make the finals there. And we have made 2 of the last 3 Eastern Conference finals, which is amazing. But at the end of the day, I think just with the way this roster is built, it is a really kind of a big part in the blame on Chris Drury there. Now, I think he's a decent general manager. I think he has made some good moves, but he also has been a part of some not great ones, even when he was the assistant general manager. And I'm not going to blame him for all the moves that, Gordon made that didn't turn out, because he can't really do that. That doesn't make any sense because he was the assistant at that time. But, Chris Drury's been around this organization for a long time, obviously a former player. Fans have definitely some mixed feelings and opinions on him as a general manager, but at the end of the day, I would place more of the blame on Chris Drury, the manager, because I don't think he's made the right moves, and he definitely hasn't made them at the right time as well. We needed to see that big, star-level player added in, whether it was a top 4 caliber defenseman or a kind of top-line caliber forward. Riley Smith has been decent, but I just don't think we saw enough moves this offseason there. Sam Carrick, I like that move for a fourth-line center. The cap hit's fine. The term is all right, but I think in general, this team needed to go out there and add in some real toughness and grit. Riley Smith was a fine addition there. Sam Carrick was fine as well. Bringing back Chad Ruedel, whatever. It's a depth defenseman, but this team just was not built the right way, and Chris Drury did not do anything to fix that this offseason, which definitely was disappointing. So now we're going to have to look to the trade deadline, or possibly a little before that, to actually try and see some change in this roster, which it gets a lot tougher to do when you're trying to make these big moves, or just kind of any kind of moves really mid-season. It makes things a little tougher to do than in the offseason there. So this is kind of unfortunate. It's the spot we're in right now, but hopefully Chris Drury will make some good moves there and kind of help turn things around here with this team, because obviously right now we're in a pretty big slump, and we were going to turn this around there. I still have a lot of faith that we're going to make playoffs, but it's about how far we can go in the playoffs. That is still the big question. And taking a look at something else as well, which kind of backs up my point here about why I do think Chris Drury is a little more to blame for the not great play and success from this team so far this season, is the fact that Peter Laviolette did come to this organization as a proven winner. In his first season as a pro head coach there in the ECHL with the Wheeling Nailers in 97-98, made it to round 3. His second season as a head coach there with the Providence Bruins in the AHL in 98-99, won the whole thing, won the championship down there in the AHL. That was fantastic in the second season there. Then in his third, once again with the Providence Bruins there in 99-2000, ended up making it to round 3 there, so some more pretty good success there. Then goes on to be an assistant coach there with the Bruins, then goes on to be a head coach after that, after one season there of being an assistant with the Bruins, goes on to be the head coach of the Islanders for 2 seasons there, loses in round 1 both times. Then in his first season as the head coach of the Canes, doesn't make playoffs, but then in his second season with them, makes the playoffs and wins the whole thing in 05-06, wins the Stanley Cup with that team. So, in his 4th season there of being a head coach in the NHL, wins the cup with a franchise who did not have a insane amount of success, obviously, before that in the Carolina Hurricanes. So that was great for him there. Then going on a little later on into 09-10 now, where he's the Flyers head coach. He makes it all the way to the finals, and then has 2 seasons after that of making it to round 2 twice, back-to-back there, so not too bad. Then also made the finals once again, the Stanley Cup finals there back in 2016-17 with the Nashville Predators when he was the head coach of them. Obviously had some pretty solid success there in the playoffs, with the Preds there for a while. Made that one finals appearance there. Obviously, they didn't quite win it against the Penguins there, but still put up a good fight there. They definitely were a wagon that season there. The Preds were a really great team and obviously coached quite well. And then you also see, last season there, in his first season with the Rangers, obviously brings us all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals there in round 3. So this is a guy who has had a lot of success there. He has made the Stanley Cup Finals 3 different times. He's always done it with 3 different teams as well, the Canes, the Flyers, and the Preds. He won the whole thing with the Canes there. Also won, the whole thing down there in the AHL Championship, the Calder Cup there with the Providence Bruins, in his second season as a pro head coach. So this is someone who's had a lot of success there. He's won 2 championships. He's made multiple, conference finals appearances. He's, made some Stanley Cup finals appearances, obviously. He's been a really great coach for a long time. He's had a lot of success. I don't think he's, not to blame at all, but I don't think he's the main kind of source of blame here. I think, if I had to pick someone to blame more, whether it's Chris Drury, the general manager, or the head coach Peter Laviolette, I would definitely lean towards blaming a bit more on Chris Drury, because I think he's definitely hasn't done enough with this roster here. I mean, we have some clear issues and problems now that we've had on this team for a while, and Chris Drury has just not gone out there to address those things. So hopefully he does at some point here before the deadline. We see some moves happen, although, like I said, I don't love seeing the big moves happen now, but obviously we'll have to wait and see whether or not we do see that big move happen, or whether it is just kind of a medium-sized deal or two here before the deadline, or maybe something in the near future. or not. We'll have to wait and see. But either way, this team has not been playing some great hockey as of late. And if I had to put some blame on someone, I would put a little more on Chris Drury. Anyways, though, I want to thank you all so much for watching today's video. If you have enjoyed, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. It's free to do. It helps out the channel a ton, and I would really appreciate your support. I really appreciate all the support that you all do show, though, on these videos. The comments have been insane. It's great to see so many of you, giving your opinions, talking with other Rangers fans, talking with me in the comments. It's a ton of fun. So definitely comment down below your thoughts. Hit that like and subscribe button. Helps with the channel a ton. All those things are free to do, and I would really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and hopefully the Rangers turn things around very soon. I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.